Hi students, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be going through the 2022 Engineering Studies HSC exam. So come with me as I dive through the entire exam and go through it with you all. So if you don't already know, the HSC exam for Engineering Studies is composed of 100 marks. It has 20 multiple choice and then 80 long response questions, and that's broken down into some short answer, some extended response, some drawing, and some mechanics questions. So let's go through the multiple choice section first, and then move over to the section 2, which is the short answer. So looking at the multiple choice, the first question says, what property of a material can be measured by testing its resistance discussion? So automatically, when you see the key terms here, which is resistance discussion, you should automatically know that this refers to hardness, because hardness is the property used to determine if a material is resistant to scratching. Now, question 2 says, which of the following best describes the change in battery-powered telecommunication products since the introduction of semiconductors? Now, automatically looking at this, we should go towards looking at the options of whether it's firstly large or smaller, and if the introduction of semiconductors has made the use of powers less or more. So automatically, we know that the introduction of semiconductors has resulted in the less use of power. So options C and D would go away. And the change in battery-powered telecommunication products has been smaller from the introduction of semiconductors. So our answer in this case is B. Now, question 3 is a pretty standard drawing question, which refers to AS 1100 standards. Now, it says, which of the following is the AS 1100 standard for drawing a brake line? Now, option A is not the answer. Option B would also not be the answer. Our answer in this case would be option C. Now, question 4 says, the diagram shows the box being pulled along the horizontal surface at angle theta, horizontal. Which equation is correct for N? Now, looking at this, we have our normal force going up and our force due to gravity going down, and then we have a force P being applied here. Now, we will be having a force due to friction being applied to the opposite direction, but we're not too worried about that because we're just looking at the equation for the normal, so it'd be going the plane up or down. So the first key step to do is to break the force P, which is applied at an angle, into its sine and cos components. So we'd have a force acting horizontally of P cos theta, and then a force acting up of P sine theta. So in this case, we're interested in P sine theta. Now looking at these forces, our normal force is going up, our force due to weight is going down, and comparing this, we would have N plus P sine theta is equal to W. Therefore, N is equal to W minus P sine theta. So in this case, our answer would be option C. Now going over to question 5. It says, contemporary aircraft construction includes the use of alloys and composite materials. Which of the following statements is not true for composite materials used in aircrafts? They're generally corrosion resistant. Yep, that is true. So A will not be an answer because we're looking for not true. They can be made into complex shapes. Yes, that is also true. For example, the landing gear is a relatively complex shape, and it's usually made of titanium. So that is not an answer in this case. They have a high strength to weight ratio. Again, that is an obviously can't be the answer because for an aircraft, we want it to be relatively light so we can take off and fly with ease, but we don't want an incredibly high payload. And we also want it to be strong to be able to withstand, say, wind resistance at such high altitudes. So C can be an answer. So D would be an answer, which is they generally cost less than other materials, which is incorrect because aircraft is usually made of incredibly expensive materials such as carbon fiber or titanium, which are more expensive than, say, materials used in civil structures like concrete and steel. Now, moving over to question 6, it says the diagram shows a steel plate with a crack developing. Which of the following would best prevent the crack from going? Now, looking at this question, we can go through the methods and the options to see which is the most correct one. Welding the crack is not easily feasible because welding is used to join two pieces together. And in this case, if we have matter lost due to the crack, we can't really weld it. Riveting a plate over the crack, that is an option. You could rivet a plate across, but it's not the most effective method from the crack to going. It's just going to cover the crack. It's not going to stop it from growing. Option C would be our answer in this case, because if you imagine a crack like so, with a sharp tip at the end. If more forces are applied, this crack is just going to propagate further down and become even deeper. However, if we drill this crack at the tip, being a circular shape now, if more forces are applied, this crack will not propagate any further. It will stop right here. So in this case, if we're preventing it from growing, C would be our most correct answer. Now for question 7, it says, what is the thickness of a standard nut that fits M20X2 bolts? In this case, it would be 16 mm, and that's because we do 20 times 0.8, which is the standard multiplication factor used for a standard nut, and that gives us 16. So therefore, B would be our most correct answer. Question 8 says, it is appropriate to produce a half development of a transition piece when the piece is very large. No, because it can still be different on the other side. Asymmetrical is the most correct answer because if we draw only half development, the other side is the exact same, so it's not necessary to draw the full drawing. Now in question 9, it says, which of the following is an advantage of modeling in 3D computer aided drawings, the CAD? It allows for rapid prototyping. Yes, that's correct. The design process is automated. Not always. The models can be intricate and complicated. That's not correct. It allows for finer tolerances than instrumental drawing. That is also correct, but in regards to the greatest advantage, it is rapid prototyping. So option A would be our most correct answer in this case. Question 10 says, which of the following identifies 2 causes of parasitic drag? Now, in this case, the first key thing to know is what is parasitic drag? Now, parasitic drag is a type of aerodynamic drag that occurs when an object moves through a fluid, so like air in this case for an aircraft. So accounting that for in this case for this question, the answer in this case would be the movement of air over the wing or the material of aircraft skin, because parasitic drag is friction caused by the air. So we first want to consider the movement of the air on the wing, and if the material has friction of its own, it's going to create parasitic drag as well. So option D would be our most correct answer. Question 11 says, a diode bridge is used to convert AC to DC current. What type of conversion is this known as? Now, this is a pretty standard question. The method used to convert from AC to DC is full wave rectification. That's the only answer. Probably best to just memorize this, that whenever you're converting from AC to DC, usually the bridge would look something like this as well. It would be a square with diodes in it. And simply just a good idea to memorize that it's full wave rectification. Now, question 12 says, a geotextile is used in the retaining wall for a public green space project. When selecting a suitable geotextile, which set of material properties should be considered? Color is not important because geotextiles are underground, so it doesn't matter what color it is. Tensile strength is important. The opacity is not important. Permeability is. Rigidity, not so much. You want a geotextile to be relatively easy to form into any shape, or like the ground structure where it's going to be placed. So in this case, D is our most correct answer because, again, filtration is something else we want to consider because you don't want water seeping through a geotextile. We want it to be waterproof, and so it doesn't allow for sinkholes to be created because geotextiles are usually used under pavements or, like, say, roads. So we don't want a sinkhole being created due to incorrect filtration occurring. Question 13. 4 students, A, B, C, D, completed a table regarding the orbit of a GPS satellite. Which student is correct? Now, looking at this table, it says matches Earth's rotation is above the equator. Now, for a GPS satellite, the first thing that we want to consider is they move around wherever. There's no strict movement regarding Earth's rotation. So option A and B instantly are crossed out because that's not what a GPS satellite does. In regards to is above the equator, no, it can be anywhere. So in this case, our answer would be C. Now, question 14 says, what feature of fiber optic cables has made them a suitable replacement for traditional copper-based cables? Lower bandwidth, no, it has a higher bandwidth. High attenuation, no, it has a lower. Attenuation pretty much means the disturbances in the signals being passed through, which occur in copper-based cables. Not so in fiber optic because they use the light to transfer signals. Do not need repeaters over long distances. Not really. Not susceptible to electromagnetic interference. That's correct. Fiber optics, as they use the light, they don't require like electrons or electricity or the flow of current to pass signals. So D would be our most correct answer. Question 15 says, the term roll, yaw, and pitch describe an aircraft's movements. Each movement is controlled by a specific component of the aircraft. In which row of the table is each movement correctly matched to the component which controls it? Automatically, we can see that our most correct answer would be A. The ailerons are in charge of the roll of an aircraft. The rudder is in charge of the yaw, and the elevators of the aircraft are in charge of the pitch. Looking at question 16, this is a relatively simple circuit. It says the diagram shows a circuit. The diode causes a voltage drop of 0.7 volts. What is the current flowing in this circuit? So in this case, simple Ohm's law. We want to find the current, so we would just do I is equal to V over R. So in this case, we would add the two resistors as they in series. So it would be 12 volts over 32 ohms. And that gives us a value of 0.375 amps. So in this case, our answer would be 0.38. However, it says the diode causes a drop of 0.7 volts. So we're not dividing by 12. We're dividing by 12 minus 0.7, which is 11.3 over 32, which is 0.35 amps. So our answer is A. So the trick here is to account for that drop of 0.7 volts. We can't do 12 divided by 32. We have to do 11.3 divided by 32. Now, going into question 17, it says, during routine maintenance, electrosonic testing is performed on some aircraft components, such as aircraft landing gear. What is the reason for performing this test? Now, ultrasonic testing is a form of non-destructive testing for materials. And in this case, why would it be done? It can be performed quickly, not really. Ultrasonic testing takes a relatively large amount of time. It reveals any surface defects? No. Ultrasonic testing is used for internal defects. External would be, for example, dye penetrant. There's a great example of a non-destructive test to determine external surface defects. Reveals any hidden internal faults? Yeah. So our answer in this case would be C. In question 18, it says a pictorial view of a machine component is shown. When viewed from the direction of arrow A, which drawing correctly shows the half section view of this diagram? So the first thing is we want to see it from this direction, and we only want to look at half of the drawing. So option A and B aren't the answer because it's the full. Looking at option C and D, automatically we know that it's not C because it shows the web of this structure in its sketch, which is incorrect. You never section off the web, so you should never have diagonal lines showing in the web of your half sectional view. It's only the other components around it. So in this case, our answer would be D. Now, question 19 says, a gear system for a machine is shown. What is the speed in revolutions per minute of the driven gear when the driving gear rotates at 1800 RPM? So pretty much what we have to do, we have to determine the velocity ratio and then multiply it by 1800 RPM to get our answer. So in this case, we would do 1800 times 15, which is the teeth of the driving gear, over 45, and then multiply it by 15 over 60. And the reason we multiply it is because this other smaller gear of 15 is attached to the larger gear of 45 teeth. So that's hence why we multiply it. Solving this should give us 150 RPM. So that's our answer. Now going over to the last multiple choice question, it says for a particular material, specimens of different sizes were tested. A load extension diagram and stress strain diagram are to be drawn for each specimen. The shape of which diagram will be affected by the size of the specimen tested? Now, looking at this, we know that it's not both diagrams, but we do know one of the diagrams is affected by the size. The specimen diagram is not affected by the size of the specimen because stress and strain is not really affected on the size. It's more just the extension. So in this case, will just be the load extension diagram affected by the size of the specimen tested. So those are all the multiple choice for the 2022 HSC exam for engineering studies. Feel free to watch the next video, which is on the short answer section.